All right, dude. I think we are live for another episode of Softy and Hawkblogger talking Seahawks. Man, it's been a while. We've taken it's my fault. It's my fault. I've been like crazy doing other things. I've missed you. Good to see you, dude. How are things?
Everything's good, and I would agree. It's totally your fault, 1,000% your fault. So everybody out there blame Brian for this. No, I mean, but both of us have been busy with the holidays and running around like crazy, getting stuff ready for Christmas, New Year, Hanukkah, things like that. So listen, it's never too late to get together and talk some Seahawks football. And I got to tell you, man, if I would have told you back in July that we'd be sitting here going into Week 16, just a few days before Christmas, talking about an 11-3 football team owning the number one seed in the NFC as of right now, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't have bought that, and I don't think you would have either, for as positive as you usually are.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I made my predictions for the season this year, we always make the predictions right at the time that usually your optimism is at its height, right?
Yeah.
Coming off the preseason and training camp, just traded for Jadeveon Clowney, like Ziggy Ansah's going to come back, like everything's going to be great. And yeah, I predicted the Seahawks to be 12-4 this year. Like, I've predicted the Seahawks. I probably predicted the Seahawks to win. I don't know. Last year, I probably predicted them to win like 9 games, 10 games. I don't even remember. So who knows? But no, like I did not expect them to be 11-3. Like, and I think one of the big you getting a call from Dave already.
I'm hanging up on that.
Seahawks PRs, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's somebody calling in with questions for the podcast. Text me, send me a text instead. Go ahead.
I mean, look, people are like, everyone's pointing to the point differential, and they're saying like the Seahawks are lucky, and they're, I'm interested in your thoughts. If you're any other team in the playoffs, are the Seahawks the team that you hope you're going to play? Are they like the number one team that you hope you're going to get a chance to play if you're in the NFC?
That's a great question. So, like, if I'm a Niner fan or a Saint fan or whoever, I don't think so, because I don't think the average fan looks at things like point differential, to be totally honest with you. I think the average fan looks at the Seahawks and they think of Russell Wilson. They think of Pete Carroll. They think of the home field advantage that CenturyLink supposedly has. They think of the mystique. I mean, this has turned into one of the premier franchises in the NFL, whether we like it or not. We like to kind of, maybe nitpick a little bit more, but I think it's become one of the premier franchises in sports. I mean, look, guys, they made the playoffs 8 to 10 years. Russell Wilson just became the second quarterback in the free agent era to make the playoffs 4 out of 5 years following a Super Bowl loss. And the other one is Tom Brady. Teams don't do what the Hawks are doing. To respond to that Super Bowl loss the way the Hawks have is very unique. I mean, look at where, Denver's at right now, Philadelphia, Atlanta. So I think people still think of the Hawks around the NFC and the NFL as an absolute threat. I also feel like the Seahawks in some ways, and this may sound ludicrous, but they've kind of become in some ways the Golden State Warriors of the NFL, in that every year they know they're going to be in the playoffs. They know they're going to be a contender, at least for a playoff berth. So the regular season is more a necessary evil, I think, in some ways for teams like that. But look, obviously fighting for a number one seed, that's what the regular season's all about. So I think the point differential, obviously, it'd be great if it was a little bit higher and you were killing teams and you had a bunch of Pro Bowlers on the roster. But it just goes to show you, man, as long as you have the head coach, as long as you have the culture, as long as you have the philosophy, and as long as you have the quarterback, you can win any game you play in the NFL. So to answer your question, kind of long-winded, no, I don't think people want to play the Seahawks, although I'm not sure who they really want to play in the NFC. Maybe Minnesota. But outside of that, dude, this thing is wide freaking open. That's why the NFC playoffs are going to be freaking awesome.
All right, can we play a little good cop, bad cop?
Sure.
Can you take the role of bad cop? I will take the role of good cop.
Hey, I like when we role play, you and me.
I know you do. I think this role isn't too hard for you to get into.
This is getting a little creepy though, but I'll play along.
So if I'm trying to make the case, the Seahawks are a good team, and that people should feel confident about them and good about them. Here's some of the things I would call out. This Seahawks team has faced the toughest schedule in the NFL, strength of schedule wise.
Yeah.
And they're 11-3 against that schedule. This Seahawks team has faced the fourth toughest schedule in terms of defenses they've played. 8 of the 14 games they've played have been against top 10 defenses, Dave. 8 of the 14. And guess what? They've averaged the most points scored against those top 10 defenses versus when they played a defense ranked 10 to 20 versus defense ranked, 11 to 20 or 21 to 32. They're averaging almost 28 points a game against top 10 defenses.
Right.
They have among the most injuries, like players lost, games lost to injuries in the NFL this year. People don't realize that. It's not always the star players, but they have a lot of injured games lost. And they've had, like, the amount of fumbles that they've had at inopportune times that turned, like, what would have been blowouts or would have been wins into close games or losses. Like, there's a lot, like, fumbles are generally a controllable play, much more than interceptions in terms of being able to avoid them. They've had a lot of fumbles this year that have cost them. And that's something that, they should hopefully be able to shore up and start getting a regression back to the mean in terms of how often they're fumbling the ball. So I look at all those things. And then I also would make the case they were missing Tyler Lockett. It was a key part of their offense for a while. He's come back, and all of a sudden Russell Wilson, if you looked at from the moment that Tyler Lockett went out in overtime against the 49ers until last week when he finally looked like himself, Russell Wilson looked like a different player. When Tyler Lockett was back, Russell Wilson started looking good again. So I think that there's a lot of reasons, if you look at that, I don't think you can be a lucky team, play the best schedule in the NFL, and be 11-3.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I got to play bad cop now.
You got to play bad cop now.
Okay. Because I agree with you, but in the interest of this little game we're playing here, I would just say look at their defensive stats. If I'm playing bad cop, I mean, those defensive stats don't look like they're indicative of a team that's going to make a run come playoff time. Outside of Tyler Lockett, has there been a wide receiver that consistently has stepped up to complement him this year? The tight end situation is a mess. The defense is banged up and not healthy right now. And unless they can get all those guys together, which, hey, I'll admit, if I'm playing bad cop here, they look great against Philadelphia, look great against San Francisco, but that defense has not had a month together. They have not played 3-4 games consecutively where they can really get, everything clicking. So that'd be a major concern for me. And then on top of that, I would just say that look at the rest of the NFC. I mean, New Orleans, if they get the number 1 seed, walking into the Superdome and grabbing a win is very difficult to do. The San Francisco 49ers, when you beat them on Monday night, they were without George Kittle. They were without some key players on defense. They were not at their healthiest. They were not at their best. And it still took you overtime to win that game in Santa Clara. So those are the types of things I'd be saying if I were the bad cop. I'd say, look, San Francisco in week 17 is going to be a much different looking team than what you saw, a month and a half ago, because they do have Kittle back. They do have Sherman healthy, and they do have a bunch of players back now that did not play in that game. So those are the kinds of things I would point to if I were to play the bad cop, but then I would punch myself in the face.
Yeah, no one likes
things like that. Okay, I don't even believe what I'm saying. I mean, you're asking me to do something that I don't even believe in. All right. I don't even believe in this, because the point you made about strength of schedule.
I know. I kind of enjoyed it.
Listen, it's not just strength of schedule, number 1 in the NFL. It's their strength of victory is number 2 in the NFC behind New Orleans. The fans and the media have got to stop bitching and complaining about who these guys have played and who these guys have beat. And to add on to your Tyler Lockett, comment about what, how much better Russell looks when he's out there. Okay, fine. So Tyler Lockett wasn't the same for what, 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks? They went 3-1. Without Tyler Lockett. I mean, you just got done telling me how Tyler Lockett is massively important to Russell Wilson and to this offense, but he was basically a 0, and they went 3-1 without him. So I don't know what more people want to see out of this football team. Frankly, I don't give a damn what people say about this football team. They're 11-3. They have a shot at the number 1 seed in the NFC, and if the fans can't enjoy that, then that's their problem. I will say this, though. Whoever they play in the opening round, whether it's Minnesota, whether it's Green Bay, whether it's San Francisco, I don't think any of us can be stunned if the Seahawks lost a game like that, okay? Because these teams are so good right now. This might be the deepest the NFC has been in years. I mean, you could make a case, I think, in any world of any of these 6 teams winning the NFC and shocking somebody. Minnesota going in was a favorite before the year began. New Orleans is always a favorite. San Francisco has been, the best team in the NFC for the most part the entire season. The Seahawks are the Seahawks. The Packers have Aaron Rodgers. The only team that would shock me if they made it is Dallas or Philadelphia, honestly, the winner of the NFC. The other 5 teams, I would not be surprised nor shocked if they found a way to get to Miami.
Yeah, it's interesting. I look at, I'll add to your bad cop for a little bit. I think you might have to beat the 49ers 3 times in one season to get to the Super Bowl. That's a tall order. That's a damn good team. That's a really good team. I still think they're the best team in the NFL, let alone the NFC, even though they lost to Baltimore. And they've got a lot of injuries though, so we'll see how that plays out. But look, Dave, I don't know. I look at the NFC, and one of the reasons I think the Seahawks are 11-3 is, the Packers got they got cleaned out by the 49ers. They were run out off the field. They looked like a weak team. They looked like a team that wasn't ready to play big boy football. The Seahawks went into San Francisco and did what no other team I think has really done. Like they really they out physicaled the 49ers. They were definitely the more dominant, team overall in that game. And they should have won that game by a lot. It was 21-10 when Russ fumbled that, and then Jermaine Ifedi fumbled, 2 fumbles on one play. Yeah. So anyway,
but you're talking about freak things like that
exactly
kept the game from getting out of hand, right? That's the deal. If
DK Metcalf fumbling at the 1 yard line,
absolutely. Well, and then even the Raven game with Russell's pick 6 and DK Metcalf's fumble, the Saint game with Carson's fumble, and the punt return touchdown. I just never felt like watching those games that the Seahawks lost to a much better roster, to be honest with you. By the way, you still got me. I was getting a phone call there. Yeah. I don't feel like the Seahawks lost to a much better roster in those games. I felt like they kind of gave the game away, especially in the Raven game and the Saint game. Look, they had those games at home, obviously, so there was an advantage for the Seahawks in both those games, but it kind of feels like those are games that, if the game was a normal flow of a game that maybe the Seahawks would have won. I think your point about the Niners is right on. For those that are old enough to remember 83, when the Seahawks played the Raiders twice in the regular season, played them in the AFC Championship game and lost. There were folks that thought, oh, they got this, man. They got this. They've already beaten them twice in the regular season. They'll do it again a third time. The difference here, though, as we're talking, now, if they can play the Niners at home, 2 of those games will be at home as opposed to 2 of them being on the road like they were in Los Angeles way back in the day. So I don't know, man. I think experience matters in games like that.
Am I crazy to think, Dave, that for the 49ers, Seahawks, it doesn't matter where that game's played? I'm not intimidated at all to go down to San Francisco, Santa Clara, and play a game. And I don't think they're intimidated to come up here either.
I disagree with you from a Niner perspective. I think if you're Jimmy Garoppolo and you're starting your first playoff game or your second playoff game, you'd rather have it be at home than on the road. Jimmy Garoppolo has no idea what playoff football is all about because the guy's never started a playoff game. So that's where the crowd has to play a difference. And look, I would generally agree with you because I think week 17 is going to be a tight game. We got to win this game first on Sunday, by the way. But I think looking ahead to week 17, it's going to be a very tight game with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. But I think in the playoffs, though, we're going to find out the size of balls that Jimmy Garoppolo has, right? If he can come in here to Seattle and beat the Seahawks in a playoff game in maybe his second playoff start ever, then that's saying something for him. And I don't know, man, what I've seen out of him, I'm not sure if he's ready for something like that yet.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call. Let's talk about this game for a second. And I think the biggest question about this game, obviously the Seahawks have to win. Obviously, there's a risk. There's no doubt that the Cardinals are capable of beating the Seahawks, especially with the injury situation we're looking at on defense.
Yep.
But let me ask you this, Dave. Is it so important that they try to win this game, that they run guys out there that are potentially going to get more hurt and might get, be less available or not as ready to play against the 49ers? Mm. Or would you take the risk and maybe hold guys out a little bit more and make sure that they're as ready as possible at 49ers game and make this more of a little white knuckle, more of a risk against the Cardinals? How would you handle that?
Tell me what happens in the Saint-Titan game, right? If the Packers and Saints both lose and the Seahawks lose and all 3 teams wake up along with San Francisco and they're right there for that number 1 seed, then Obviously, it's not as important, but I think so. Yeah, I think you had your game that you kicked 2 weeks ago in LA. I mean, I think you gave away that kind of luxury that you're talking about, Brian, this Sunday with Arizona when you kicked the game at the Coliseum 2 weeks ago. So this is a game where, look, I mean, obviously you're talking about winning the division and putting the focus on winning the NFC West and just making sure that you're ready to rock for next week's game versus San Francisco. But I haven't thought about that. I want that damn number one seed. And you know what? I'm not going to apologize for it either. All these people that call me greedy and say, focus on the division, don't worry about the one seed. Bullshit. That's ridiculous, man. This franchise has had the number one seed 3 times in their history. They've been to the Super Bowl all 3 times. We got a chance to get back to a Super Bowl. I want the easiest road to get back to it. And if that means guys have to suck it up a little bit, and I got to risk maybe a few minutes of guys getting banged up against a bad Cardinal football team on Sunday, then so be it. Hey, look, instead of doing it that way, how about you blow them out for once? How about you take care of Arizona and you finish them off like you couldn't finish off Carolina and you couldn't finish off Atlanta? So, yes, in a long-winded way, I want to win this game on Sunday because I want that damn number one seed.
Well, you definitely want to win the game, but I mean, so you would say you would risk, like, put Jadeveon Clowney, out there, maybe put Shaquille Griffin out there, and there's a better chance to win this game, but maybe a lesser chance that you beat the 49ers.
Well, are they cleared? Are they cleared to play? Then they're cleared to play. Bottom line, end of story. If they're cleared,
that's what I was curious.
Look, if you can,
I'm on the other side of this one, buddy.
If you can go to Shaquille Griffin and Clowney and say, hey, look, you're cleared to play, but if you sit out one more week, there's a chance that your production's going to skyrocket against the Niners, which nobody would ever say. That's not the way teams operate, and doctors don't operate like that. But if somebody in some world said that to me, maybe we could have that conversation. But, dude, if they're freaking cleared, they're cleared. Let's go. Luke Wilson's ready. Ziggy Ansah's ready. If Shaq Griffin is ready and Clowney's ready, they play too. I'm not sure about Quandary. I'm not sure about Michael Kendricks in this game. Obviously, those guys are probably both out. But yes, if they're cleared to play, put their asses out there. And let's go.
I'm on the other side on this one. I think if you told me that the chances that Shaquille Griffin, Michael Kendricks, maybe even Bobby, but like Shaquille Griffin, Michael Kendricks, they've got soft tissue, they got the hamstring injuries, right? If you told me that there is a 30% chance that they're going to make it worse and potentially miss next week in the playoffs, even if they pull it badly in this game, I'm holding them out, even if they're cleared to play, because I put it on my MVP quality quarterback, my offense, which is pretty healthy against one of, if not the worst defenses in the NFL. And I say, you go out there and you win this game and you let these guys heal up so that the team can be ready to make a playoff run. And I don't want to risk those guys getting hurt and then the whole Super Bowl run being at risk because of it. So
I don't think there's anything wrong with putting those guys out there and seeing how the game goes, right? Seeing how the flow of the game goes, whether positive or negatively, and then making a call in the second half. If you feel like the game's over, which with this team, it never is over. So that's kind of a hard thing to judge. But if you feel like it is over in the second half, maybe you get those guys out there, maybe limit their playing time a little bit. But I don't know, man. I want that one seed, and again, it just sounds like you're putting less emphasis on the one seed than I am.
I'm not. I think that if I'm putting the most emphasis on the Super Bowl, and I think you have to get to the one seed to do it, and you got to take risks in certain places, and you have to win this game. You definitely do. You got to get a one seed to do it, or at least a bye. And I don't like the idea of guys heroing their way into this game and getting hurt and then not having them against the 49ers and losing it. And I hate that idea. So I hope it all just works out regardless. We don't have to worry about it.
Hopefully the game plan, I mean, you're right that you get this offense. I mean, first of all, this offense is going to have to score some points on Sunday against the Cardinals.
At least 30 points, dude. That's the number.
Yeah. I mean, this is not right now, specifically right now, because of the injury factor. This is not a great matchup for the Seahawks defense, I don't think. I'm not sure if you agree with that or not on Sunday.
I don't think anything's a great matchup with the Seahawks when they're this injured.
But especially with the way Kyler Murray's running around right now, it just seems like a bad time to be facing a running quarterback. I mean, Kyler Murray's really good. I think people have kind of lost sight of that. There's so much talk about Lamar Jackson, and there's so much focus on the Cardinals' 4-9 record that, I mean, Kyler Murray has thrown for 3,000 yards and run for 5. He's the only quarterback in the NFL, I think, to do that. If he gets to 35 and 5, he would match Cam Newton, back in his, first couple of years. So this is a really hard offense to stop when you have a running quarterback, when the Seahawks are banged up on the edge, especially if Clowney doesn't go and Ansah's limited, and Diggs is not there to maybe step up in the box, this becomes a much harder proposition. I'm stunned by that 9.5-point spread, by the way, in this game on Sunday. I would take the the Cardinals and the points and run all day with that. Wouldn't you?
How could you not? I mean, given the Seahawks propensity, you talked about, let's blow this team out and maybe you feel good that way. Like, what would the score have to be for you to be ready to take your starters out of the game with the way the Seahawks have played this year? Like,
I'd have to be leading by, I would say 21 points with 5 or 6 minutes to go.
Dude, they were leading by 20 with like 7 in this last game, and they almost lost.
Yeah, but this is at home. It's a different story. I don't know. I mean, 5 minutes to go with the way the Seahawks are running the ball. If they're running the ball well, then you can just, pound the clock. And I mean, look, obviously I never felt that nervous about the Carolina game. Maybe a bit more nervous about the Atlanta game, because if they don't get that fumble to go their way towards the goal line, it's a different story. And if they, look, when you snap that ball on third down, obviously, in the Carolina Panther game, and you got that big conversion by Chris Carson, let's say there's a fumbled snap, right? Or somebody slips, or you get the cadence wrong or whatever. You're introducing factors like that into play that could be the difference between losing and winning a football game. So I would say 3 touchdowns or more with 5 or 6 minutes to go in this game. I feel good.
Interesting. I feel like it'd have to be like 35 points for me to start feeling comfortable with the way this team's played this year. But all right, dude. Well, on that note, we're going to have a lot to talk about one way or another come next week. So
for sure. Can't wait.
I am committed, if you are. The rest of the season, you and I are going to talk Seahawks all the rest of the way, and I'm looking forward to it.
Can't wait for next weekend. Can't wait for this weekend. But yeah, next weekend, if things go the way we think they're going to go. I mean, look, the game is for the NFC West Championship no matter what next Sunday. This is it. This is a playoff game. It's an early Christmas gift for Seahawks fans that you have a early playoff game next weekend at the Clink. I'm seeing tickets are going for $400 just to get in the door, for God's sakes. I was talking to my pal Anthony over at VenueKings.com. He says the get-in price for that game right now is more expensive than the get-in price for playoff games, for crying out loud. So, dude, this is awesome, man. Just to be thinking about the possibility of making that wrong a right from 2014, having a chance to do that. Who knows where they'll be in a month from now, but just having a chance to be in that conversation is freaking unbelievable. So I'm with you, pal.
It is, man. And hey, this weekend is about getting the right to play what I think will be the biggest regular season game in the history of the franchise.
Yeah, you could say that.
Before will there have been a game where you can guarantee the number 1 seed, your division title, and do it against your biggest rival. Like it's going to be lit. So really, they got to take care of business this week first.
Did you just say it's going to be lit?
It's going to be lit, dude.
Okay. Middle-aged white guys are not allowed to talk like that.
I said it. It's out there. You can't take it back.
All right, dude. We'll see you.
All right, man. Hawks. Go Hawks. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. If you haven't already, please sign up over at patreon.com/Hawkblogger. And give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe on YouTube. We're growing leaps and bounds, and happy to have you aboard.